Hey guys, it's Ryan Holman, founder of Sales Recruiting University. Today we're going to talk about how developing your org chart can actually help you increase the volume and the quality of commission-based sales reps you're able to bring on board. Now, the reason that this is because when you're scaling up a commission-based sales team, especially as a small business owner, the reality is that there's a million opportunities for people to choose from. And when you have objective opportunities for leadership advancement in the future that you can communicate on paper with candidates in the recruiting process, it naturally helps you increase the volume and the quality of reps you're able to convert into your model. Now, every organization out there is pitching typically advancement opportunities, but it's ambiguous, it's not specific. And if you do this process, the advancement opportunities within your organization will be more specific, and therefore, because they're specific, they're objective, people are more likely to believe them and move forward and work with you. This will all come full circle by the end of this video, and for starters, let's talk about revenue. So when you're starting this process, it's important that you have big goals. So what I mean by that is, let's say we had an organization that was doing $1 million in revenue. Well, most small business owners, they're going to want to go to, 2 million. That's going to be the next big goal for them, okay? And that's great for them, but when solid candidates come through the recruiting pipeline, and there's not a lot of growth within the organization, it's just not really exciting. As an example, if I were to come through your recruiting pipeline, and this is what you wanted to accomplish as a business, then that's not really attractive. It's like, what am I going to do within the organization? Be the 1 to 2 reps that just produces for you over the next 10 years? No, like what's the opportunity long term? So what we like to do with organizations is we like to say, hey, let's assume because you're in a recruiting service that you can accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish from a recruiting perspective. And let's think a couple goals down the road. Now, most organizations, if they were to go from hypothetically 1 to 2 million, and I know your revenue may be less or much more, but this is just for the sake of illustration. For most organizations, if they wanted to go from 1 to 2 million and they got to 2 million, most likely their next goal is going to be like somewhere between 4 to 5 million. And then once they got there, it's going to be somewhere in between 8 and 10 million. That's typically how it goes. Now, if I start at 5 million, most organizations are going to want to get to that 8-figure mark, right? To 10 million. And when they get to 10 million, it's going to be like, okay, let's go to 20. But in short, you want to think 2, maybe up to 3 goals down the road. So as an example, hypothetically, if I was a company today doing 1 million, and right now I want to go to 2 million, but I'm starting to think a little bit bigger and assuming I'm able to build the organization that I want to scale, well, I'm assuming, if I were to go to 2, I'd probably go to 5. And if I were to go to 5, I ain't stopping there and I'm going to go to 10. And therefore, I'm probably going to land a couple 2 to 3 goals down the road. So instead of thinking about being an organization that scales from 1 million to 2 million, which would still be very exciting for me as an owner, I'm actually going to reverse engineer my org chart based on a much larger goal of 1 million in this example to 10 million. Okay. So really what I'm trying to build is an organization that creates an additional $9 million in revenue. Now for, simplicity, we typically just round up, especially for the small business owner. Like in that example, if the company was doing 1 million, most likely the owner or one of the partners is involved in sales still, and obviously they're not going to want to be involved in sales forever, so we're going to have to build a sales team for them that creates, in that example, 10 million. And so, for those reasons and also just for the sake of round numbers, it's typically easiest just to round up. So what we've concluded so far is we want to build a sales organization that scales up to 10 million or from 1 to 9 million, which is going to get us to the 10 million mark. And for the sake of reverse engineering the math, we're going to assume that we need to build an organization that produces 10 million in sales. And so that's the first place that I start. The next thing that I do is I want to think through the bare minimum expectations for sales reps annually. Okay, so this would maybe be like a quota, whatever you want to call it, right? Minimum expectations, quota. You may not have those things defined today, but you want to think about the bare minimum average Joe quota. So when you reverse engineer the numbers, they're conservative. So as an example, let's say that your bare minimum quota, that's if a rep sticks with you over a 12-month period of time, is going to be 500K in revenue. Well, what we've concluded now is if we need to build an organization that goes, from hypothetically 0 to 10 million, right? Because we're just kind of replacing that 1 million from before, and this is illustration, the owner was still selling. So we're just assuming we need to go from 0 to 10 million because we need to replace the owner sales. Well, if I have a 500K quota, this means I'm going to need 20 sales reps to produce my $10 million in revenue, okay? So $10 million in revenue. If I have 20 reps that do 500K, I'm naturally going to build a $10 million organization. Now from there, what I do, and this will all come full circle again here in a few minutes, is I want to think through our leadership structure, like the sales management level. Now, this is maybe kind of a bigger example than you would want to do in terms of your revenue growth or the size of the sales team, or maybe your goals are going to be 10x this, but this should help you kind of run with this process so you can do it on your own. But in this example, right, after we understand that, okay, we need 20 reps doing the minimums to create an additional $10 million in revenue, we need to think through what's the sales management structure going to look like. Most organizations are going to have 5 to 10 sales reps for every one sales manager. Now, for the sake of making this illustration kind of a larger leadership structure so you can really, understand these concepts, I'm going to assume that we are having smaller sales teams of 5, so 1 sales manager for every 5 reps. And therefore, obviously, if we need 20 reps and we have 1 sales manager for every 5 reps, that means we need 4 sales managers times 5 reps to get to our 20 reps. Okay. Now, from an org chart perspective, there's going to be additional leadership from there too. So if I'm an owner, and I'm building up an organization, that's going to be requiring 4 sales managers to scale us to 10 million. Well, long term, once we're at that scale as an owner, I'm not going to be managing day-to-day the sales management staff. So we're going to have, in this example, some type of executive sales leadership, maybe like a VP of sales. And so maybe it would look like a VP of sales, and then we would have 4 sales managers, right? And then under that would be our team of 5 reps. Right? This is starting to come full circle for you. And there's our team, of 20. And now what we've concluded in this objective path that we want to go through as an organization is that we actually have 5 leadership opportunities available within the growth of the business. Now, when this is clear for you as an organization, you could recruit into these positions. And when it's objective, when it's a specific plan in the business, the higher quality candidates, most candidates, when it's more objective versus the other recruiting pipelines that they're going through, they're going to be more believable, right? Because it's a specific plan within the organization. Hey guys, we're going to go from 1 to 10 million, and here's the exact path to get there. Here's the leadership structure required to build it. And what's really unique about this organization is that all of these sales leaders are going to start in our sales rep role. Okay. That's kind of the idea, although in the recruiting process, it's communicated in a bit sexier of a way, okay? Now, to really drive this home, once you have that in place, that's a good starter from a high-level perspective. Like our recruiting process is centralized around a group interview model where you have advertisements, candidates come in, they go through a screening and scheduling process. All the candidates that are potentially a fit go into a group interview. They get sold the dream. Step 7 within our 8-step group interview process is about the career path. That's where you start to talk about some of the things we're covering today. But then there's a one-on-one interview, and then there's the actual management of the sales staff. And the more that we could really drive home the advancement process within our business for these leadership positions that exist, the more that we can close reps in the final one-on-one interview, assuming you have a similar process to us or you're a client, and the better that we can manage reps around whatever their goals are if they have goals to transition into leadership. And so it doesn't need to look exactly like this, but like when we work with organizations, we install a 3 to 6 month path into sales leadership. So let's say I'm a sales rep and I get hired and I'm interested in the leadership role and I meet specific personality or DISC assessment results. Our clients can actually put reps on a 6-month path into sales leadership unless in some situations they want to expand it for 12 months. So what I mean by that is this 3 to 6 month process that I'll go through right now, there's a lot of detail that I can't cover because it's just too nuanced. But it'll be a good high-level overview of it. If you feel like this needs to extend for a year because your sales process is too technical or whatever the reason is, that's okay. But anyways, this advancement process, what it is, it's recruiting into these future positions, right, like we just covered, but then also really driving this home with not only an objective path for growth in the business, but also an objective path within the sales department for people to earn into sales leadership. So it's truly an equal opportunity for everybody. Now, the way we typically do this, it's a 3 to 6 month period. And in the first 3 months, a rep starts as a commission-based sales rep, and there's 10 skill sets, tasks, attributes that they need to accomplish consistently over a 3-month or a 90-day period to prove that they're worth going to this next step, which I'll come back to in a second. Now, these 10 things are like, performing at least a top 10 to 20% level. 20 to 10% is kind of dependent on nuances, but conservatively a top 10 to 20% level consistently over 90 days. It's not being flaky in whatever the management process is. So as an example, if you have sales team meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they can't be flaky. They need to be participating and engaged with those things. They need to be following the company's sales process, assuming there is a sales process. So there's 10 things that we have laid out that really help screen out the wrong people. So as an example, if you were to recruit 4 people that all were chasing the sales leadership position, right? You start 4 people and they're all competing in these first 90 days for the leadership position. Well, a lot of the people are getting screened out because of the hard requirements that need to be consistent over the first 3 months. And naturally, the 10 requirements in the first 3 months screen out the people that are sales reps for leadership. And in short, if they accomplished everything that they need to accomplish consistently over a 3-month period, unless you wanted to take this to a 6 to 12-month process, once they get to 3 months, they technically qualify as a sales manager in training, and then they advance in months 4, 5, and 6 as a sales manager in training, and by the end of 6 months, they're a full-time sales manager. And the way that you delegate compensation, it starts in here, and that's another topic for another video. But in short, a rep comes on board, they start as a commission-based sales reps, they earn the right to transition as a sales manager in training, and then you start to delegate responsibilities like recruiting, onboarding. Sales team meetings is typically one of the first ones to start. One-on-one meetings, accountability, reporting, coaching, communication, and more, so that by the end of 6 months, you can delegate all of the leadership responsibilities to that sales manager and step away, assuming you're an owner, and independently run and grow your business in whatever way it is that you want to. Now, if you want us to help install this process, by the way, in your business and actually help you recruit the people at the beginning of this process, we can do that really easily for you. We do that for hundreds of clients, and we actually help in the development of that leader as they start to transition. But you can go to salesrecruitinguniversity.com if you're interested in learning more about that. Now, months 4, 5, and 6, they're not just taking on all of the responsibilities on the leadership side right away. They're slowly getting delegated these responsibilities. Typically, it doesn't work out perfectly like this every time, but as an example, they'll take on 10 hours of leadership work in month 4, then scale it up to 20 hours a week in month 5, and then 30 hours a week in month 6, and then by the end of month 6, going into month 7, 40 hours per week, they're the full-time leader. And you've allowed them to prove that they're the right person to transition so you don't advance the wrong person, and then you've slowly transitioned and delegated all of the leadership responsibilities off your plate to that person so that at the end of 6 months you have the right leader and you can truly step away with somebody that's fully trained up. And what's beautiful about this, if it's not clear, you can get the right leader in place within your company without having to invest the salary on the front end. You know, from our perspective, hiring outside sales leadership and giving them a salary right away, it's really risky. It typically doesn't work out, even for the companies that pay the most. And so our perspective in terms of building a commission-based sales organization is you want people to prove into the role over a 3 to 6 month or a 6 to 12 month process. Now, to bring it back to what we talked about at the beginning, from a recruiting perspective, if in your, at least as we do it, your group presentations in the recruiting model, if you're pitching all the opportunities from a leadership perspective that exist, well, that's going to excite higher volumes of quality people to move forward in our recruiting process one-on-ones. And if you back that up with an objective path into sales leadership that's like this over 6 months, and in the one-on-one interview, you can say, hey, these are not just positions that we're planning to fill, but there's an objective path that reps can earn into, and you can be one of those reps. And you communicate that, document it, and communicate that in the final interview, the one-on-one interview, your closing ratio is going to increase. And not only that, you'll have sales reps that come on board that know exactly what they need to accomplish this process to actually earn into the role. And if you're doing this, then you actually need sales leadership. And therefore, this is actually important because you want to get to the right sales leader as soon as possible. Okay, so to backtrack a little bit, we talked about reverse engineering your org chart, having big goals. So you have at least one, obviously, but ideally multiple leadership opportunities that exist. That helps increase the volume and quality of recruits you're able to bring on board. And the cherry on top is having an objective path into sales leadership so that when reps come into their one-on-one interviews and ultimately the sales team, they know exactly what needs to be accomplished. And if you do this, it'll increase the volume and quality of recruits you're bringing on board and help you solve potentially a leadership issue that's going to come up in the next 3 to 12 months, depending on where you're at in the growth of your sales team. Now, if this was beneficial for you, make sure to like the video, drop a comment, and if you want to learn more, go to salesrecruitinguniversity.com. Thank you.